The story of Apollo 11 began with a bold vision set forth by President John F. Kennedy in 1961. In the midst of the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union were engaged in a heated space race. Kennedy's historic speech challenged NASA to achieve what seemed impossible at the time, landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to Earth before the decade ended. NASA rose to the challenge, initiating the Apollo program. This monumental effort required innovation, dedication, and collaboration on an unprecedented scale. Thousands of engineers, scientists, and astronauts worked tirelessly, overcoming countless technical and logistical obstacles. Each mission leading up to Apollo 11 brought NASA closer to the moon, testing spacecraft, equipment, and techniques essential for the final leap. By July 1969, after years of preparation, the Apollo 11 mission was ready. Astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins boarded the Saturn V rocket, the most powerful launch vehicle ever built. The world watched in awe as the massive rocket roared to life on July 16th, propelling Apollo 11 toward the moon. The stakes were immense. Success would cement America's dominance in the space race, while failure could mean disaster on a global stage. As the spacecraft soared into space, humanity held its breath, hoping for a historic triumph. After escaping Earth's atmosphere, Apollo 11 entered a 3-day journey to the moon. The spacecraft consisted of 3 parts: the Command Module Columbia, which housed the astronauts during most of the mission, the Service Module, containing life support and propulsion systems, and the Lunar Module Eagle, designed to land on the moon. As they traveled, the astronauts conducted system checks and prepared for their lunar landing. Michael Collins piloted the Command Module, ensuring the spacecraft stayed on course. Meanwhile, Armstrong and Aldrin practiced maneuvers for their descent to the moon's surface. On July 19th, Apollo 11 entered lunar orbit, circling the moon while the crew made final preparations. The following day, Armstrong and Aldrin transferred into the Lunar Module Eagle. With Collins remaining in Columbia, Eagle began its descent, leaving orbit and heading toward the moon's Sea of Tranquility, a vast, relatively smooth plain selected as the landing site. As Eagle descended, the astronauts faced unexpected challenges. Alarms blared in the cockpit, warning of potential computer overloads, and Armstrong had to manually pilot the lander to avoid a rocky area. With fuel running low, Armstrong guided Eagle to a safe landing spot. Finally, on July 20th, 1969, the lunar module touched down. Armstrong radioed back to Earth, "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." The mission was halfway to success. 6 hours after landing, Neil Armstrong descended the lunar module's ladder, becoming the first human to step onto the moon. As his boot made contact with the lunar surface, he declared words that would echo through history. "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." Armstrong was soon joined by Buzz Aldrin, and together, they spent over 2 hours exploring the moon's surface. They conducted experiments, collected rock and soil samples, and set up scientific instruments, including a seismometer to measure lunar quakes and a retroreflector to bounce laser beams from Earth. The astronauts planted the American flag and left behind a plaque that read, "Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon." July 1969 AD. We came in peace for all mankind. Back on Earth, millions of people watched the event live on television, marveling at the sight of humans walking on another world. This monumental achievement was not just an American triumph, it was a moment of unity and inspiration for all of humanity. As Armstrong and Aldrin worked on the moon, Collins orbited above in Columbia, keeping the command module ready for their return. Despite being alone, Collins described feeling deeply connected to the mission and proud to play his part in this extraordinary endeavor. After completing their lunar activities, Armstrong and Aldrin re-entered the lunar module and prepared for liftoff. The ascent stage of Eagle fired successfully, propelling them back into lunar orbit. They docked with the command module, where Collins welcomed them back on board. The lunar module was then jettisoned, left to orbit the moon indefinitely. Apollo 11 began its journey back to Earth on July 22nd. The spacecraft re-entered Earth's atmosphere at a blazing speed of nearly 40,000 kilometers per hour. Protected by its heat shield, Columbia splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean on July 24, 1969. The crew was recovered by the USS Hornet, completing their historic mission. The astronauts were placed in quarantine for 3 weeks as a precaution against potential lunar microbes, though none were found. Upon their release, they were celebrated as heroes, honored with parades and awards worldwide. Their success marked the culmination of a decade of effort, fulfilling Kennedy's vision and proving the power of human ingenuity and determination. The Apollo 11 mission remains one of the greatest achievements in human history. It demonstrated the power of science, technology, and collaboration to overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. The mission inspired generations of scientists, engineers, and dreamers to reach for the stars. Apollo 11 also paved the way for future lunar missions, including Apollo 12 through Apollo 17, which expanded our understanding of the moon's geology and origins. Its legacy continues to influence modern space exploration, from the Artemis program aiming to return humans to the moon, to efforts to explore Mars and beyond. The words spoken by Armstrong, "A giant leap for mankind," capture the essence of what Apollo 11 represents, a moment when humanity came together to achieve something extraordinary. It was not just about reaching the moon, but about proving what is possible when we dare to dream and work toward a common goal. Today, the Apollo 11 mission reminds us that no matter how distant the stars may seem, they are within our reach if we have the courage to take the first step.